Just to highlight, I think call, apply, bind can also take a little more importance. So this is also being tested many times. What is the difference between call, apply, and bind? Essentially, call, apply, and bind are methods which are attached to every single function. So the function, you can do any function dot call, dot apply, or dot bind. They all work in similar fashions. Call and apply invokes the function immediately. Bind will return a function with the context that you're changing it to. Call and apply and bind all accepts the first argument as the context of the object that you need to invoke. You need to change it to. And for call, it takes arguments like this. And for apply, it can take an array of arguments as such. And bind takes again multiple items as arguments, similar to call. Okay, so again, now I think we have covered call, apply, bind also. It is a important topic. You will get multiple questions around that also. We have covered one question in the first revision part also. Okay, so the next topic is the prototype or prototype chain or inheritance as such. So a way to explain prototypes is that it is a mechanism in a way JavaScript can inherit properties from other objects. So JavaScript works a little funnily or differently from other languages, and one of the things they handle is that it has inheritance, but it is a little different from the way it handles. So you don't need to know this, but generally when it comes to JavaScript, the kind of architecture or the kind of, so people say a lot of OOPS-oriented or object-oriented programming, all of that. So JavaScript has something called ODO, which is object delegation oriented programming or something on those lines. It's called UDO as such. Yeah, something on these lines. So it delegates objects to each other. So one thing about how inheritance works in JavaScript is that, or with respect to classes, that is, when I come to classes, I'll talk about it. So we can understand that what is prototype. Now, you guys already know what classes are, right? Now, prototypes are, classes are a kind of a sugar syntaxing of the prototype chain. So when I was starting classes, it took me a little time to figure out what was different about JavaScript, because I came from a very, my initial understanding of classes came from C++, and it is a very different way of handling classes. It took me a little while, and then the more I dug into it, I found out that JavaScript doesn't actually support classes. It is a sugar syntaxing over the prototype chain. So I realized at that point, it was not classes, it was prototypes that need to be understood properly. So now the whole point of prototypes or any kind of classes or any kind of these kind of concepts is to optimize a lot of your programming concepts and to reduce redundancy and etc. So let's say you have your array methods, right? So if you go to array, let's say, and let's say array map. Okay, so you can see that there is on the page, it writes array.prototype.map. So whenever you see on the documentation, it says array.prototype.map, it uses the prototype chain, which means that if you create an array, let's say an empty array in this case, and you were trying to console log that information of array.array, we would get only the empty array here. If you were to write array.map, oops, we would get a function here. So where did that function come from? So this is because it is stored in the parent method. All right, so array2, let's put another one. Okay, so if I were to annotate this, let's hope this, yeah. So these are the two arrays we have. So this was array1, this was array2. Right, let's erase this. Right, so we have two arrays at this point. Now, what you can think of is that we know another way to write array is by, you can write it with the new array method, right? So it can take in length in this point. So what happens is that we are essentially taking properties, or we are using a constructor array method, and then from there we are accessing these properties. If you go to the array definition, this is what it is. It is returns an object whose properties value are true. All right. This is on the source code as such. You don't need to know that much, but here also you can actually see there are some methods that it has, which is fill, find, keys, values, etc., etc., all of that. So if you did array.fill of, let's say 10, and you give a value of 10 here, you would get, oops, so if I put array, we would get filled with 10. So this is properties of that array method. So we know that there is some parent here, all right? Maybe there are two levels, haven't checked it, but essentially this creates and returns some object. And when you search for when you type in array.map, right, what essentially happens is that JavaScript looks for a method inside this array. It does not find a map method. So what does it do? It doesn't crash. It checks if there is a parent or if it inherits some properties from someone. So it finds out, oh, it does. So it goes to the parent, whichever parent it is, parent method or parent function, and sees if there is anything inside the parent. If it finds, if there is a method called parent, then it invokes that function there. If it does not find anything here, then it will go to the next parent if it exists. If it's there, then it will invoke that method. If it doesn't exist at that point, then you would get an error saying there is this method, this method does not exist, or this function is not a function, or something on those lines. So that's how the prototype chain works. And this is applicable to arrays, applicable to objects, anything as such. So there's a good chance you'll be asked to create one. Now, when you're asked to create a prototype, you have to first create a constructor. So I hopefully nobody's forgotten how to write a constructor. Okay, so we would write this dot name is equal to name, and this dot age is equal to age. And we would say var of person is equal to new of person. Let's say Masai, and let's say 25. And if I were to write console.log of person, we would get that age here. So there's one more question that you can get here is regarding the new keyword. What does the new keyword do? What if I remove the new keyword in this point? We get undefined. So what you can actually do here is you can, instead of this, if you just wrote a var of, let's say, obj, and you write obj.name is this, and you were to write a return of obj. Whoops, just give me a sec. Oh yeah, sorry, I had to set it as an object. Yeah, so we can see that the name now becomes Masai and age like this. So this is what the new keyword kind of does. It it kind of creates a new context of this here, and it kind of says this is an object here, and it creates this here and returns that value, returns this in this part. So we are able to like write in this format. So now another thing is we can write this dot display is equal to function, and we can say console.log of this dot name, and we can say age is. So at this point, you have got that display is inside your object, right? Firstly, maybe you don't want to show this, and every time you create another person, let's say person 2, and you want to write person 2 also, we would get this issue here, right? That the display method is being present in every object. So it doesn't make sense to do this, because the problem of redundancy, we are wasting space there. We can do it much better. So inheritance can be used to make sure that this object or this function is available to all the functions. So what you can do is you can say person. So to the constructor or to that function, we can attach a prototype chain. So if we can write person.prototype dot, let's say, display function console.log of this dot name. Now if I were to write person dot display, and I was supposed to run this program, you can see I get Masai here. So this is also similar to what you write here is kind of like a pure function, or more towards functional programming as such, where the method that you write is irrespective of what, I mean, n number of different objects, it will still give you the right output that you expect. I mean, there's more things we can explain or add to pure functions as such. But yeah, that's another question altogether. So this is how you should be able to write a simple prototype chain. What happens if I remove this, and if I actually just write obj is equal to this, and if I write obj.name, you can see that the person.display is not a function. Why is that? The reason is that your new keyword also handles the prototype chain for you. So just make sure that could also be one of the points you can mention about the new keyword.